I used to dream about showing the world what I dream about. Forget a mic, my whole life I thought it'd be the mount. I guess it's fitting how life threw me the curveball. Pops told me work till you make it, man, then work more. I guess I took that to heart, cause I've been working harder now than I...
And welcome back into another episode of Mom's Basement. As usual, I am your host, Joe. With me again is Corey. Thank you for listening on iTunes, on YouTube, whatever it may be. We're glad to be back with you guys. And before you look into the camera and go, where's Joe's fake tooth? It's not in. I had another surgery. Don't judge me. I appreciate the support.
You know, I've been around him for a couple hours tonight. I didn't even notice.
Really?
No, I didn't.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't wear it because I still got stitches. So wait for the stitches to come out, the tooth to go back in. You like this? You like this chicken dinner merch, Corey? You don't like it?
It's alright.
Oh man, I was gonna plug the podcast for Sam Panayonovich and Joel Ostrowski, but now I'm not gonna do it because Corey doesn't like the merch. Anyways, getting back into Mom's Basement. Tonight, what we got for you guys is a little NFL preview. We're going to look at the NFC first in this episode, and then we're going to drop another episode sometime throughout the week with the AFC. Corey is putting some weird stuff on the laptop. We're going to power right through, and we're going to talk about a little NFC football. Obviously, the hype around football season is always looming large, and it is everyone's getting football fever right now, essentially. There's been a couple big storylines in the NFL, especially with Ezekiel Elliott, the star running back for the Dallas Cowboys. That's where we're going to pick it up. He was suspended 6 games by the NFL for domestic abuse or, personal misconduct, whatever you want to call it. A lot of Cowboys fans, I know specifically my buddy Jason Carter, very distraught with the 6-game suspension. Will it get reduced? I don't think it gets reduced. I think he's going to serve 6 games. So, Corey, I don't think it's getting reduced. I think he's going to serve the full suspension. What about you?
You know, I think this is we're at a point where it could go either one of two ways. I think this is where Roger Goodell and the rest of the NFL's decision crew, whatever the hell their title is called, they might try to keep flexing their muscles and keep the suspension upheld. But at this point, there are different things floating out there, and I don't think either of us are qualified to get into. Is the victim right? Is the victim wrong, or whatever? But there seems to be a little shadow over the victim's story in terms of, I think they were talking about pictures she took or just things she said where she wanted to set Zeke up to ruin his career. And if Zeke can provide proof that this person set him up, then I think he's going to get the suspension reduced. My gut feeling is that it gets cut down to 4 games, and I think that's where it stands. It's still a big loss to the Cowboys, but I think it's one that, they'll overcome.
I agree with you. I think there's a shadow over her testimony, let's call it, so her testimony about Zeke that got him suspended for 6 games in the first place. But here's the thing with the NFL is they've gotten this wrong in the past a couple times.
Yeah,
obviously, Ray Rice got 2 games.
Ray Rice got 2 games. See, that's the thing. Ray Rice got 2 games when there was a fucking video.
So they're gonna make an example out of Zeke here, and that's why I don't think it gets reduced, because they're gonna say, all right, we got to take a stand.
They're going to overcompensate for what happened with with Ray Rice, excuse me.
Basically, so I think he's going to serve the whole 6-game suspension. Now, he could be a big loss for the Cowboys. Obviously, they have the best offensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, I think most running backs would be okay behind that offensive line. What do they have, Darren McFadden?
I think Darren McFadden's going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, because he's been in that offense for over a year.
Absolutely.
Anyway. But he can carry him through, 6 games. But, So
speaking of the Cowboys and that offense and Zeke and all that, let's move into the NFC East. Let's look at these teams. We got the Cowboys, the Giants, the Eagles, and the Redskins. For me, it's going to be the Cowboys who win the NFC East. They're going to win 10, 11, maybe 12 games. In my book, I think that's going to be enough to get it done. This, to me, on paper, the best division in football.
Oh, yeah.
You got good quarterbacks across the board with Dak Prescott, Eli Manning, Carson Wentz. I know you're not as high on Carson Wentz as I am. I think he's going to take a step forward this year from what we saw last year. We saw flashes of how good he can truly be, but he's got the footwork issues, which he's had since he came out of college. But I think he's going to take a step forward. And obviously, Kirk Cousins, the guy who every year gives us that great soundbite. You like that, all that stuff. He gets franchise tagged again. He's looking to prove himself. I think he's going to be out. He's got shiny new weapon in Terrell Pryor, the new receiver coming in for Deshaun Jackson, who's now in Tampa Bay. Yeah. So it's a really interesting division. I think it's going to. These are going to be some really, really good games. especially when they're playing in the division. But for me, it's the Cowboys coming out.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I have a couple notes on the NFC East, but I do agree with you. I think the Cowboys will, win 10, 11, 12 games, something like that, and still find their way into the playoffs, especially if Zeke Elliott's suspension gets reduced. I don't think there's going to be any sort of sophomore slump from players like Dak Prescott or Zeke Elliott. That offensive line is still amazing, and Des Bryant's still Des Bryant.
If Jalen Smith can get on the field
and I was going to say
year,
that was going to be my first thing was Jalen Smith, the inside linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. He was the best player in the draft before he tore up his knee, and it's really good to see him. I saw him on the practice field earlier this week, and he played in his first preseason game this evening. And just I didn't see what he did or anything. I don't think that's very important. It's just the fact that he was playing at all. That guy could be just an absolute stud if he can bounce back and be just a force for that defense. Moving on then to the Giants as well. They got Brandon Marshall now. They're pairing Marshall with Odell Beckham.
Sterling Shepard. Mm-hmm. That's a very good receiving core.
And we were talking about before the show, too, with players like Damon Harrison and Janoris Jenkins and Olivier Vernon. They actually bought their defense, and their defense showed up for them last year. It's the one time that buying in free agency actually really worked out
adding
for
to an already formidable pass rush, because they still had Jason Pierre-Paul, who was still JPP even after he blew his fingers off in the firework incident. So that's a great pass rush with a good secondary. The Giants have probably the best defense in the division. However, they don't have the best offense because they don't have an offensive line. They don't have a run game, really. Paul Perkins is their starting running back right now. And then Eli Manning is obviously not getting any younger. Still a good quarterback in the NFL, but age always catches up to you in the end. So I give the edge to the Cowboys over the Giants, but I think the Giants are still the second best team.
I think the Giants will absolutely be in contention for the wild card, and just beyond the two top teams we've talked about. Things with Carson Wentz, his footwork seemed to regress as the year went on, falling back into old habits. And I'm not the biggest Carson Wentz fan. I think footwork is very important. And then the Redskins, they lost Deshaun Jackson, who takes away a deep threat for Kirk Cousins to exploit, and I think that's going to be a big loss for them.
You ever hear Deshaun Jackson rap?
I have not heard Deshaun Jackson rap.
He did this thing like with Make-A-Wish. There was this kid. They brought him in the city. He's like, we the Eagles. We flying high to the ceiling. Mike Vick, throw the boat at DJ. No, you didn't hear that one?
No, I'm sorry.
It was sick. You should look it up on YouTube.
I'm white for people who listen to us.
So am I. I mean, that race doesn't matter, all right? Music fills the soul, Corey. All right? It gets you going. Gets the vibes pumping. Speaking of the vibes pumping, let's move to the hometown division, NFC North. Obviously, we got the Bears in there with the Packers, the Vikings,
16-0 Bears.
Oh, man, no.
The Bears.
Stop it.
Trubisky throwing 70 touchdowns, no picks, Bears.
Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears in the NFC North. Let's start from the bottom up in this one. Because the bottom's going to be the Bears, and it's not going to be close. They're going to win 3 to 5 games.
It honestly depends on how often when John Fox decides to pull the trigger on Mike Glennon and start Mitch Trubisky, because the Bears have a top 10 defense, but
they really do have a great front seven.
They have a great front seven, and they made some additions in the secondary, and they drafted a safety who is turning heads so far in the preseason. But that offense, man, is just you can't do anything with it without a good quarterback. You can't win in the NFL without a quarterback. So every game that Mike Glennon plays is a game that the Bears are going to lose. So I don't know how much you can come back from that. I do think they're going to finish in last place. I do think by the end of the year, Mitch Trubisky is going to prove to be the franchise quarterback, but at the same time, John Fox isn't going to make it past this season, and the Bears will be searching for a new head coach.
Mike Glennon has looked terrible in the preseason through 2 starts, though, so far, so it looks more and more likely that Trubisky may see quite a bit of action this season, and Glennon might only start 6 games.
Yeah, I wonder at what point John Fox just looks and goes, yeah, I'm going to lose my job if this guy keeps starting.
If you're John Fox, you're like, I'm already on the hot seat. I have to start a guy that's going to win me some games to try and keep the job. So if Trubisky's that guy, he's going to play. I think the Bears are definitely the worst team in the division. They're going to finish in last place. The front seven is very, very, especially if they stay healthy, very, very good. They're going to put a lot of pressure on every single quarterback they play. The secondary has gotten a little bit better, but it's nothing to where you would like it to be. So they're still going to be exploited in the pass game greatly exploited in the pass game, I think. And then obviously you look at the offense. The offensive line's okay. Kyle Long getting into a bunch of fights with teammates at practice. Who knows what that's about?
Kevin White's a bust.
Yeah, Kevin White. I've been saying this for 2 years.
I tried.
Garbage.
He's bad.
He's a one-hit wonder.
You know what he's got in the preseason? He's got in 2 preseason games. He's had 3 targets, 2 catches, 2 yards.
I told you. I tried to tell him.
Yeah, I don't like to give up on people.
He was a one-hit wonder who didn't run routes in college. And look, it's the same thing. He can't run routes in NFL. He can't stay healthy. He's a garbage first-round pick. Your first pick for Ryan Pace is officially going to be a bust.
That's the thing, too, that I want to keep an eye on, too, is how well Mitchell Trubisky performs. Because if he does it, Ryan Pace is going to lose his job. And I've been looking at previous Ryan Pace drafts. And, you know, I used to be a fan of him, just the way he conducted his drafts with best player available. But at the same time, he's missing. He missed on his first pick, you know. He's missed on a lot, and a lot of guys have injury concerns and whatnot. So I think that's another, like, under-the-radar story is, you know, does Ryan Pace get to finish this rebuild? But, anywho, moving on with the NFC North.
I think a lot of that's going to have to do with this class.
You think so?
Because if Trubisky performs and
a quarterback.
And
if you look at the team we're probably picking both of us to win the NFC North, a great quarterback covers up a lot of flaws on a football team.
Absolutely, and it's looking like guys like Tariq Cohen has turned heads in the preseason and looks to me. If I'm John Fox, he's my second running back, and I'm looking to get rid of Jeremy Langford personally. So. I mean, it depends. I think, obviously, Trubisky's going to be that guy on top of the mountain that needs to perform if you're Ryan Pace, if you want to keep your job. But I think there could be some other factors there. Ultimately, he did tie his wagon to Trubisky. They're going to finish in last place. We're going to move on. In third place, I'm going to have the Minnesota Vikings finishing in third place in the division. I'm not a Sam Bradford guy. Adrian Peterson's out of there. They got Dalvin Cook from Florida State coming in to take his place. But I just don't believe in Sam Bradford. Mike Zimmer, the head coach, great coach. I think he's a phenomenal head coach in the NFL. The Lockport Porter alumni. I am a fellow alumni. Bet you didn't know that, Corey.
Yeah, I haven't known you for years or anything like that.
Well, I meant you didn't know that he went there.
Ah, okay.
I'm pretty sure you knew I went there, but I'm pretty sure you weren't, that into
Guys,
it.
breaking the fourth wall. It's almost 1 in the morning. I'm fucking tired.
With Mike Zimmer's history, but he went there. Now the head coach of the Vikings. Anyway, I don't believe in the offense. I don't think it's that good. The defense is always going to be pretty solid with Minnesota and Mike Zimmer.
Especially with Zimmer, yeah.
Right. I just don't think they're going to win more than 7-8 games. And I think the Lions, Stafford, I'm a huge Matthew Stafford guy. And, nothing like Matthew Stafford down 14 in a game to get him really fired up and really get him going. Because that's when he seems to play at his best. I'm going to take the Lions to finish in second place. I know you're probably going to have these flip-flops.
Yeah, I will have them flip-flop. I think that the Vikings are better coached. I think that the Vikings just did a better job, I guess, is the way I want to say, of shoring up some weaknesses they had. They drafted Dalvin Cook, who I think is going to be a really good running back. And I think Sam Bradford is unspectacular, but he was a steady force for them last year. He's not going to make too many errors. I think he set the completion percentage record last year, which, it's not really a big deal, but I think a big part of about winning in football is winning the turnover ratio. And I think Matthew Stafford, as a gunslinger, turns the ball over with more frequency than somebody like Sam Bradford does, who's going to protect the ball and get you guys to set up good field position. So I think I would take the Vikings over the Lions, but I think it's a moot point because I don't think a wild card team's coming out of the North.
No, they're not coming out of the North. Just to say this, the Vikings started, I think, 5-0 last season. They didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and they play 5 of their first 7 games at home. The first 7 games at home this year.
Yeah, I think they have a fairly tough schedule. Let me double check this. No, they do not. Teams they are playing have a combined win percentage of .453.
That's below 500.
So that is very good. But the Lions sit there with their teams they're playing at a .469. So they're both pretty weak schedules. That could go either way. Ultimately, in the North, it is going to be the Green Bay Packers. One reason, Aaron Rodgers. Well-coached team. Mike McCarthy's been there for a while now, so
they're going to be the favorites in the division for as long as Aaron Rodgers is alive and around. I mean, unless Mitchell Trubisky becomes just Aaron Rodgers-like, I think that Rodgers is the best quarterback in the sport today, maybe the best all time, and he's
elite quarterbacks can carry you.
Yeah,
period.
Because we've talked about this on this podcast before. The Packers haven't drafted like they're the best team in football, but a guy like Aaron Rodgers covers so many mistakes. So, 12 wins, 13 wins for the Packers is not something that should be
and they're going to win the division.
Out.
It's not going to be too close.
No.
And now moving down to the division that had the NFC's representative in the Super Bowl, the NFC South. Obviously, we just talked about the Super Bowl representative, or I just mentioned it. It's the Falcons, along with the Panthers, who had a horrible year coming off their Super Bowl berth. So really, the last two Super Bowl teams have come out of the NFC North from NFC South, from that conference. Then the Saints, with obviously Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Adrian Peterson. That's something to keep track on, with Mark Ingram still there, and of course Thomas, the receiver they draft. That's a good offense, as always.
It always is.
Yeah, and then the Buccaneers, the Hard Knocks team. Now, with me, I tend to fall in love with these teams on Hard Knocks because it's just such a cool show. You get so much access. You see all this cool stuff. Granted, I mean, I don't really care too much for the clips where they show cutting players like they were cutting
Robert Aguayo.
Yeah, this past Tuesday on Hard Knocks.
He sucks.
It wasn't even a cool thing. They sat him down in the office we're gonna release you, and he's just sitting there holding. It looked like he was holding back some emotion. He's like, okay. Why are you doing this to me? He was like, okay, yeah, I understand. I let myself down.
I love how you're laughing at an emotional, sad moment. It's perfectly timed.
But I love the Hard Knocks, and I think Tampa Bay is going to be a sleeper team in the division.
Too.
I don't think they're going to win the division. I think the Falcons ultimately will take that crown.
They have so much talent on offense. And
I
agree with you. I have mentioned this on the show before. I think Deshaun Jackson is a much better receiver than he gets credit for. I think Kirk Cousins in Washington is going to miss him a ton this year. Because one thing you need to look for when you game plan for these speedy wide receivers, who aren't just these guys who need to have a playbook set up for them, but guys who can actually run routes. Deshaun Jackson is always pulling two players with him, which opens up the middle of the field for bigger guys like O.J. Howard you're going to have.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, for
sure.
Top
5 receiver, in my opinion, in the sport.
Yep. So I think a guy like Deshaun Jackson is going to be really good for that offense. I think they fall just short of the Atlanta Falcons in the division. I think the Falcons will win because the Falcons have a loaded roster.
And you know what? Deshaun Jackson, he mentioned this on the first episode of Hard Knocks. So they're asking him how he likes Tampa, how's he adjusting, how's he feel, because he's been always kind of had some injury concerns around him. He says, this weather's helping my knees. It's not even funny. So the weather in Tampa is going to play a factor. Obviously, he played in Philly, freezing cold in Philly. He played in Washington, freezing cold in Washington. So maybe Tampa's the breath of fresh air.
We didn't even talk about Jameis Winston.
He's got the best quarterback he's ever had.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's Jameis Winston is going to be elite.
Those are going to be fun games watching Atlanta versus the Bucs, especially when they play in Atlanta's dome. That's going to be
where they simulate crowd noise.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be a 40-38 type game. That's going to be a really fun thing to watch.
Sidebar on the Atlanta Dome, the new Atlanta Stadium they're putting in there for the Falcons. Did you see they have a Chick-fil-A in it?
They did, but it's closed on Sundays.
It's closed on Sundays? Why?
So it's going to be open, on Monday Night Football?
And Thursday Night Football. I want to know why. Chick-fil-A, I'm adding you right now.
At Chick-fil-A, why?
At Chick-fil-A, why? You good, bro? Why? Anyway.
But anywho, back to the Atlanta Falcons.
I think the Falcons win the division. I've got the Buccaneers coming in second in this division, making a run at a possible wild card. I think it's going to be tough because the NFC East, like we mentioned before, is so good. It's so deep. But I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. Good defense. Gerald McCoy, probably the second best defensive tackle in football behind Aaron Donald. You've got Quan Alexander going there. Brent Grimes has been very good. Vernon Hargraves is very, very good. And Riley Bulla, he's going to make the team. Undrafted free agent linebacker. They call him Joe Dirt on Hard Knocks. He's going to make the team. He's going to be an unsung hero, an unsung leader on that squad. And they're going to come in second in the NFC South.
But yeah, we talked about this too before the show. The Falcons people worry about a Super Bowl hangover. Just on offense themselves, on their offense, they have Matt Ryan, who's a very steady quarterback. You have Julio Jones, who some would say is the best receiver in all of football. You have Devontae Freeman on a new contract. Some people say he doesn't live up to that contract. We'll see. But their defense is ridiculously young, and they basically acquired that defense in the last 2 or 3 drafts.
The defense is very good.
They've managed to hit on every single young pick, so that defense is young. They've already had a year together to grow and be a really good unit. I think they're going to be a dominant unit again this year, too.
Yeah, I think, and then I'm going to have the Panthers in third, the Saints finishing last in the division. I'm not surprised, though, if the Falcons end up not winning the division. Lose your offensive coordinator, you lose your quarterback coach.
Yeah.
Those are 2 huge losses for a team that was really, really offense. They were very good on offense last year. Obviously, Matt Ryan helps with that a ton. There's not really much else in that receiving corps other than Julio Jones. If Coleman and Freeman aren't healthy in the backfield, that's scary. So I have my speculation, or what's the word I'm looking for? I have my doubts about
There you
Atlanta, but I'm not surprised if they win the division because they probably, on paper, are the best team.
Yeah.
But Tampa's coming for them.
And then I got Panthers third and Saints fourth too. I just think Saints are getting old as a unit, and I think the Panthers, Cam Newton needs to bounce back from all his injuries, and I think that Carolina still has some of that, that Super Bowl, that core together, that I think that they could be a passable team, but I don't think that they're going to contend for the division this year.
Looking at the wild card, I think the Giants are going to come out as a wild card team, and I'm going to pick Tampa Bay. I'm going to pick Tampa
We still
Bay.
have to do the NFC West.
We didn't do the NFC West. Well, you know our wild card now. So the NFC West, Seahawks, Cardinals, Rams, 49ers. All right, we know this 49ers are probably the bottom 5 worst team in football. The Rams, they're in LA now. You got Jared Goff, who's gonna get this whole season to show.
If Jared Goff progresses, he's got Sammy Watkins, who needs to stay healthy, and he's got Todd Gurley, who is
he's got weapons now.
He's got a better core.
He's got a better coach too.
Yeah, around
Jeff Fisher. Sorry, you're mediocre.
Yeah, but I still think Seattle is going to be a front runner.
Seattle's going to win this division. I'm going to actually move LA Rams into second place in the division. I'm not buying the Arizona Cardinals. I think Carson Palmer is old and he's not going to be great anymore. He's going to take a huge step back. And Larry Fitzgerald, another year older. That offense is David Johnson, so as he goes, they will go, and he's going to probably put up great numbers.
I drafted him.
But is it enough for them to make a push towards even second place in the West? I don't think so. I think the Rams are going to come out with a better coach, a better offense. Their defense is always going to be pretty good. They've got obviously Aaron Donald, in my opinion, the second best defensive overall player in the league, but the best defensive tackle, and it's not close. He is an animal, a freak of nature, so he's going to lead that defense. I think they come in second. Cardinals in third, and obviously the Niners, they're going to be bad for a long time.
But
so
we talk about,
finishing the bottom of the
and then the division winner would be the Seattle Seahawks. You got guys like Russell Wilson and Earl Thomas coming back who will be healthy.
Let's talk about Eddie Lacy, though.
Yeah.
Eddie Lacy and Thomas Rawls.
Eddie Lacy's already losing snaps, so I think some dude named Chris Carlson or something like that just was taking his reps this week. But the Seahawks they've just drafted too well over too long of a period of time.
They're well coached. Pete Carroll's phenomenal. So, I think the Seahawks come out of the West. They're going to win 10, 11 games, win that division. Now, you heard my wild card. I'm going to pick Tampa Bay and the New York Giants.
I'm actually going to pick those two teams as well.
Yeah, I like the Giants a lot. We talked about the offense explosion that they have. We talked about their defense, how they bought it through free agency. Eli Manning's been there, done that before.
The receiving core is good, too. With Odell and Brandon Marshall make a really good 1-2 in receiving.
That is a phenomenal 1-2 punch for the receiving core. Jameis Winston, we talked about him. We talked about Tampa on the rise. I think Jameis is going to take a huge step forward, proving that he did deserve to be that number 1 pick over Marcus Mariota, who we will talk much more about in the next episode of Mom's Baseball. You heard it here. Those are our NFC predictions for this season in the NFL. Thank you so much for watching Mom's Basement here on iTunes and YouTube. We greatly appreciate you. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know what you think about the episode. Let us know if there's anything else you want to see from us as far as videos go. We will make sure to do our best to stay on the grind. Keep the content coming for you guys. And I am working on new merch. I'm working on a design. So if you know any designers, who do graphic design, apparel design, well, have them tweet me, have them DM me on Twitter, at Joe_Frank01. Let me know if they could help me out with that. I am willing to pay some price, not a huge price. We'll negotiate on the price. But I want to get the new merch out there. I want to get new hoodies, hats, shirts, all the nonsense out. So let me know if you guys know anybody. And, of course, thank you for watching. And we will see you guys shortly because we got an AFC episode coming up in a couple
fucks to give, don't give a damn about the fall play, okay. And if you ever see me in the spot, I'm leaving the mark. Harry Houdini, they cannot put me in the box, believe it or not. My mind on the bread like a condiment. I don't play catch up, this hope they catch on to it. Fuck all they compliments. I'm more concerned with accomplishments. I'm more like Popovich. I'm chasing brains like Sonic is. Life's a bitch, but I fuck with it.